My name is Jeannie Baldwin. I'm the Regional Executive Vice President for the Public Service Alliance of Canada. PSAC represents over 180,000 Canadians who work the front lines of federal public service delivery from coast to coast to coast, including here in Halifax. I would like to acknowledge those in the room who work at the Department of National Defence and any other public sector worker here today. I would like to also mention that 760 PSAC members who received or affected letters yesterday who work for the RCMP and Human Resource Skills Development and there's 3 other federal bodies. 26 of these members work here in Halifax. This is not an easy time for you, and your union is here to support you. We are all here today because we recognize that when these cuts to public services happen, they affect all of us. Since the 2011 election, the Conservative government in Ottawa has told Canadians that we wouldn't feel a thing from its planned cuts. Yet this government has clearly demonstrated that in its recent budget, like the budget that came here before us, it's not about jobs and prosperity. It's about cutting federal jobs and eliminating public services. But it goes further. This budget is also about threatening the viability of economics in cities and towns across this country. Halifax's economy is deeply tied to the presence of federal jobs and to a strong Canadian Forces presence. Since the 2012 budget announcement, roughly 18,000 federal workers who are PSAC members alone have received or noticed that they might lose their jobs. Over 750 are here in Nova Scotia. Those who received their affected letters are anxious about what losing their job will mean for their future and their families. Will they have to pick up and move? Will they have to change careers? Go back to school? Will they be able to pay the mortgage? These workers I've spoken to are heartbroken. They are stressed and they are deflated. They have worked long and hard to serve Canadians, so they are also worried about what these cuts mean for those who rely on the services that we provide. They know the work still needs to be done. As a Newfoundlander and a federal public sector worker and a union leader, I'm tired of hearing the government's platitudes about the importance of small communities and about rural Canada. If they cared about small towns in Canada, they wouldn't be pulling the rug from underneath us or cutting us at the quick. That's why this summer PSAC asked every Canadian to tell us how they are affected by the cuts, to connect the dots between cuts to the federal public services and the services and their everyday lives. This summer we interviewed and profiled shop owners, mayors, students, and members of First Nations to hear how these cuts affected them. And this is what we are doing here today. We are going to go to every community where public services are on the chopping block. Tomorrow, PSAC members from coast to coast are taking part in a National Day of Action. And we're going to tell our stories about the attack on public services in communities right across Canada. We're going to do this because in 2 days' time, Parliament will resume in Canada. And right now we want to set the tone. Why? Because we know that there's going to be another budget facing us in another couple of weeks. Canadians deserve to know the reality behind the cuts that, frankly, we didn't vote for. And since the government won't come clean about it, we have to tell these stories about what's happening to each and every one of you. Canadians deserve to hear the truth about these cuts. It's the only way we're going to be able to fight them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Good afternoon, everybody, and I want to welcome you to this press conference. And I'm particularly pleased to be here with Jeannie Baldwin, the Regional Executive Vice President for the Atlantic region representing the Public Service Alliance of Canada. To all of you who have taken the time to attend today, thank you for coming. I look forward to answering questions from the media that you may have following my comments. I represent the workers who keep Canada's military operating. We are over 17,000 members, and we are the backbone of the Canadian military infrastructure. We are laborers, construction workers, food service workers, safety officers, mechanics, electricians, administrative support workers, inspectors, and technologists who support the Defense Science and Research Development Program. These are Canadians who have proudly worked for the Canadian Armed Forces for years. These are not military jobs. These are the jobs that keep the military running. I have traveled to bases across this country, and I have seen how closely knit these communities are. The actions taken by this defense minister and his government are tearing at these communities. We are not just losing jobs. We are losing institutional memory. We are losing the ability to do the work in-house. And we are losing the ability to be ready at a moment's notice for our armed forces and for our country. And in very tough times, we are losing good-paying jobs in communities that need them. Civilian employees in the Department of National Defense have been amongst the hardest hit in these cuts. Over 1,000 people are expected to lose their jobs in a range of critical occupations in national defense that has brought us here today. As we know, this government has told thousands of workers, our members, that they are affected and they may lose their job as a result of the recent federal budget. And I am here today to say that we are all affected. I am here because Canadians have the right to know the real story, how the impact of these cuts will have in the community here in Halifax. Alone, there are 48 members and their families who are affected. Today, I join local representatives because the public must be made aware of the consequences of government cuts to this community and the entire country. These losses will not only affect workers across the board, from laborers to clerical workers, but ultimately will have a serious impact on communities and the proud defense family of which my members are part of. In every case, each employee provides an important function that matters and supports their community. They are our family, our friends, our neighbors, and our customers. Some of these positions, as I said, are right here in the backyard of Nova Scotia in Halifax. And this government made it very clear and has said that front office jobs will remain unaffected. Yet these positions are not back office public service jobs, but are core functions to support the military in front office jobs. Already we know very clearly also that the work will not disappear once these workers are laid off. Further, we must take into account how much we've invested in people and the specific skills that they possess, and what that contributes to communities. And while the cost of these communities is high, this government has yet to show myself or anybody else how these job reductions will lead to a savings for the Canadian taxpayer. Some of these jobs are the lowest paid in the entire federal government, jobs that are critical to sustaining hardworking families. While difficult decisions need to be made, it should not be made at the expense or on the backs of hard-earned skilled services and support that is an important part of Canada. Tomorrow, we will march on Peter MacKay constituency offices. And this is the official PSAC Atlantic Region National Day of Action. We are going to bring our concerns directly to the minister's community, and we are going to bring our members from Quebec, Nova Scotia, from all parts of the country to the minister and tell him what his cuts are doing to our communities. Thank you very much.